We are back after some technical difficulties. What a time to be alive, Chuck. Listen, it's August 11th. We made it almost the entire summer without screwing up a live show. That's pretty good. We'll just reset the counter since our last nonsense to 0 days and move on from there. 5 rounds in now. I guess kind of recap what you've been thinking in the last few picks here. I like what we both got cooking here. I don't have a running back yet. Probably something that's a little scary for most people, but Chuck, I'm fine with hammering wide receiver early. We've talked about that basically every single show we've done together. And you've got a 1-1-2 going. No, excuse me. You've got you have a 0-1-2-1 going. Excuse me. Like your team as well.
Was really hoping Justin Fields would make it back to me. I only had to fade these two guys, taking him unstacked, but it didn't work out.
DJ Moore is not a player that I'm high on, but definitely that combo with everything else that you got, Kelsey, Pollard, Cooper, that would have been pretty nice to pull off. I don't mind the mindset there at all.
Yeah, it seems like Cooper and DJ Moore are my guys, and I was really hoping to pair DJ Moore with Justin Fields. If I thought I had zero chance to pair him with Justin Fields, I probably would have went with Najee or McLaurin, but we went for it. Didn't work out. That's the reason why my DJ Moore exposure is so high. I keep trying to pair him with Justin Fields, and sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Still, even at this point in the summer, Chuck, this Chris Godwin and Mike Evans duo going in the 5th, 6th round. I know we have a quarterback competition with Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask takes center stage tonight in preseason action. We've got the Bucks sending Baker Mayfield out there to start this game. Sounds like Kyle Trask will have his chance to prove he belongs under center in the next preseason game. Either one, regardless of who's under center, I still think these two guys are going to have a ton of reps this year and probably a little below where they should be in fantasy rankings. Have you changed your mindset on that at all, or are you still in on the Bucks here?
I'm actually over the field on Mike Evans. I'm up to like 11%, and then Godwin, I think I have about 9%. So I've been adding him quite a bit. My concern, so I was going to ask you, with Baker Mayfield, are you still drafting him a bunch? How are you approaching that with a Trask there too?
I've hit the pause button there on stacking with these guys. I think it's pretty likely, regardless of who wins the job in week 1, Chuck, I think it's pretty likely that both quarterbacks are going to play throughout the season. They'll probably make some changes. It probably is a good baseline expectation that they're going to struggle a little bit this season, having some change at that position. So I think we see, maybe does each player play 8-9 games throughout the season? Maybe they're both usable throughout the best ball season, but I think it's hard to forecast which one of them is going to be the quarterback when it matters the most, which is at the end of the season right now.
My lean is towards Kyle Trask is probably the starter towards the end of the season. Just we've seen Baker, he's gotten a lot of chances. Like, he's a vet, but if the Bucks aren't winning, by midseason, are they just going to try to develop Kyle Trask? I've heard he's, not a terrible quarterback. So
you bring in Baker if you think he can bridge the gap and maybe get you to the playoffs or something like that this year. If things aren't going well in that direction, then I think that's when you make a change. Absolutely. So it seems like we're aligned there. I like the upside case of Baker Mayfield. I think the talent is there, but we have to recognize the risk. And one thing that he has been doing in camp, doing some of the preseason notes for today's games this August, week 1 for the Bucks, Baker has been a little interception happy in practice, which is usually enough to get coaching staffs to at least second guess themselves on their decision on who to start. And it sounds like that's why we're still in a competition here. So it's already kind of negative news for Baker Mayfield as it stands right now. All right. I feel very good about a dead zone running back here. I don't really have a ton of in my portfolio yet, but I thought it was a really good sign that this player did not play last night, and that's Dameon Pierce from the Houston Texans. I also liked, I liked one facet of this and disliked the other. It does look like CJ Stroud is going to be willing to throw the ball to his running back, and we've seen some reporting that Pierce may have more of a role in the passing game than he had last year. Some pretty good camp highlights backing that up as well. But man, CJ Stroud looked pretty rough last night. I don't know if that's just a function of the offensive line play, but I hope that gets a little better as we get closer to week 1.
Well, I mentioned it yesterday how Jamar Chase dropped a few balls in preseason his rookie year and his ADP tanked a little bit. CJ Stroud's ADP is already so low, and I do think it's different with a quarterback performing poorly versus Jamar Chase. Like, he still drops balls, but doesn't matter if he's going to rip one off for 50 yards, every other play anyway. And so, I don't know. I'd be a little probably going to avoid drafting CJ Stroud for now.
David Montgomery, I think, has a really good chance to outperform this ADP. That's why I'm really interested in him in the spot. Maybe Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't live up to the hype. Maybe there's an injury with Jahmyr Gibbs. Montgomery's role feels pretty safe. And Montgomery, I think, is a little bit more dynamic than the early down running back, goal line running back that the Lions used last year in Jamal Williams. Montgomery, a little bit better as a pass catcher. We saw that with the Bears when he was there. So I love Montgomery in the 7th round.
Been taking a good amount of Montgomery was usually my auto pick in this range. I've been mixing it up with Javonte. James Conner I was taking a lot too, but I'm taking Javonte, DeAndre Swift a bunch now too. Probably going to lean towards between Swift or James Conner for now. Wish I had a Jacksonville guy. I'd take Trevor Lawrence here, but I do not.
Yeah, because he is definitely sliding. That was probably something else I with Christian Kirk already on my roster, but I still don't feel great about having 2 early picks invested in a quarterback. I'm sure it can get there, but I think the wager I've really made here is that Jalen Hurts is the best one to own. So Jalen Hurts is going to be the only one I'm going to take in the first 9 or 10 rounds to begin this contest here. All right. DeAndre Swift, you and I have made it back-to-back days with at least one of us selecting him. We had a Eagles beat writer put out a report this morning that it seems like Kenneth Gainwell may actually be getting more of the early down work in Philadelphia. Obviously, with heavy Gainwell bags in my portfolio this year, I love to read that, but I'm kind of skeptical. What is your reaction to that news?
Well, Kenneth Gainwell is my highest exposed running back on Underdog, so if it's true, then it's absolutely awesome. But I'm pretty sure something like this happened in the previous training camp where Kenneth Gainwell looked like he was going to be the man, and then he just wasn't. It was still Miles Sanders. And then if it's the beat that I'm thinking of, I'm pretty sure people posted in response to that guy is not reliable. So we can take the information he gave that Kenneth Gainwell was getting most of the run, but I don't think that we should I don't think we should change anything we're doing because of it.
I think you bring up an excellent point for us to be aware of here in the 32 beat writers era of training camp reporting of NFL fantasy football preparation in the month of July and August. They do a great job putting information out there, and they're well worth the follow, and we really love the work that they do. It makes it really easy for everybody to follow what's going on around the league, but you still have to practice a little bit of trust but verify, right? We see this news clipping come across our radar, across our news feed. We still got to investigate, where's this coming from? Is this person reliable? And sometimes, Chuck, things slip through the cracks that may not be as reliable as they are from other sources. So I think that's an excellent summary of the news we got today that you just had there. Okay.
And that goes for everybody because, everyone wants to be right about their takes, but just give us the information and, we'll do with the information what we do.
I was interested, obviously, through our little technical issue that we had here. I made a couple of notes of things I wanted to talk about that happened earlier in the draft that we would have talked about live if we had been live. Jordan Addison going about 10 picks ahead of ADP after making his debut for the Vikings last night. I don't know what to make of that. I don't think he had a tremendously amazing box score performance for the Vikings, but I think the information we got about the role that he may have on the offense is what is causing a little bit more of the hype train there to get out of control. I didn't really notice another rookie that has gone early yet. We have to keep a close eye on Tank Dell and see where he goes at some point here, though, as well.
One player I forgot to ask you about yesterday was Quentin Johnston. He went pick 79 here. Zay Flowers went 89 for reference. Jordan Addison 61. Does that seem right to you? The order, at least?
Man, I still have a really hard time with Quentin Johnston in general by himself because I just think Joshua Palmer still has enough of a role for that to be kind of scary right now. So I'm not clicking on him if I don't have a reason to, like if I don't have Justin Herbert, for example. So that's my mindset there. Got to make a pick here. We are on the clock at pick 95. All right. I haven't got a tight end yet. Well, I have Christian Kirk. I do have some correlative reason to be interested in Evan Engram, but I think the direction I'm going to go here is my binky in this range, and that's Cortland Sutton with the Denver Broncos.
I like it. I've been adding Cortland Sutton. I think Brian mentioned it, the difference between him and Judy, it's too large in ADP.
Engram goes to Abelli, 1994. All right, I got a 1-2-5-0. Sky Moore, well established inside the first 100 draft picks. I do think that's a little aggressive, to be honest with you. Where can we go here? I like buying the dip here on Isaiah Pacheco. I think people are excited, rightfully so, about some of the things that we're hearing about Deneric Prince, and Pacheco's been maybe not as healthy as we would have liked over the last couple of weeks. But it's still super early, man. And we're wagering on Pacheco being a very, very valuable asset in the Chiefs offense as an early down running back throughout the entire season. I don't really think we've seen enough to downgrade him from the RB1 role with Kansas City yet. I'm happy to get the number one running back on the best team in football at pick 98.
Yeah, I was considering between him and Kamara, but if I took Mahomes, I would have taken Pacheco. Kamara is pretty high risk, but at pick 91, he was pretty good. So,
and we have Beckham going ahead of Bateman. That is obviously Bateman has had as Bateman comes right off the board here. I like all these players. I want exposure to the Ravens, but I feel like that might be slightly incorrect. I think Bateman should go ahead of Beckham. Probably splitting hairs here, admittedly, but we're focused on what's going to happen October, November, December. Even if Bateman's a little slow out of the gate here, I still feel like first round draft capital that he's going to get his opportunities here.
I agree. Gonna go with AJ Dillon here. He's a guy I've been adding a lot in this range. He's pretty good. Kind of, I don't want to say he's in a Josh Jacobs type, but if he ends up being the starter by the end of the season, something happens to Aaron Jones, he gets traded, I don't know, then AJ Dillon's going to seem pretty good. And his standalone value seems fine at this ADP as well.
Yeah, the Packers are one of these 1A, 1B groups at the running back position. Further confirmation that's still the case. Both Dillon and Aaron Jones have been ruled out of tonight's preseason opener for the Packers. So, again, that's good news for A.J. Dillon. That means he has his role locked down. There's no concerns. I was pounding him heavily early in Best Ball Mania 4 draft season. I still like him now. His cost hasn't really changed. I like him a little better than Aaron Jones just because the opportunity cost is not as high. So
Aaron Jones I've been adding as well in that range. I don't mind either of them, but I'm always going to prefer the second running back when their price is much different. And Ethos tells us that the audio is still not good. Well, I'm not quite sure what to do, Ethos. I apologize to anyone else watching if you can even hear this.
Okay, let me.
It's like so weird. I'm watching it on my phone, and it's literally just it.
Yeah, I just shut off my my external microphone. Just went to my AirPods here. I'll see if that makes a difference. I don't know if it will or not, but I don't know. Might have been something funky going on with my my microphone here. We're just obviously live troubleshooting. It's a show for that here, and not only is that super interesting, it actually forces us to think about something other than the teams we're drafting, which may lead us. Ethos is trying to screw us up, Chuck. He's afraid of the competition. He wants us to get out of the game here and tilt pick and have a bad roster in our portfolio. That's what's really going on here. I've caught on to the scam that's going on. I'm not going to let this bother me for the rest of the show.
Ethos, what's your username? Which one are you in here? I hate this pick. I don't want anyone in this range. Like, I just want another running back, but I don't really want to take a fifth running back right now.
This is
tough. I don't know. Probably just take my fifth running back, be done at running back, and then I don't know.
it is a tough range, and I think I am on an island on this take, Chuck. I have no real interest in Samaje Perine. I think I have 0% right now, to be honest with you. I just feel like it's one of those plays that I've identified as I don't think it's going to kill me if I'm fading it. I don't really see him being a workhorse back for 17 weeks and being a player that I absolutely need in this range. I think if something were to happen to Javonte Williams, they're just more likely to bring in somebody else to get some touches. So that's kind of my lean on him. And I'm basically teeing it up for me to completely fade him once again if he's on the board at pick 119, which it looks like there's a decent chance that's going to happen. So
I was basically full fading Perine, and then I accidentally auto drafted him yesterday or earlier this week. I was pretty disappointed about it. It's just his ADP was being propped up with the thought that Javonte Williams was not going to be 100% for the first half of the season at least, but the coach keeps saying Javonte is 100%, and so Samaje Perine's value is only there if something happens to Javonte. Like, even if they're splitting work, is Samaje Perine really worth a 10th round pick? I don't know. Probably not.
got excellent news last night that Juju Smith-Schuster is definitely at the top of the depth chart for the Patriots. He warmed up in pregame warmups with Mac Jones or whatever, but didn't even bother looking like he was even interested in going on the field for a single snap. So I already am heavily invested in Juju, but I still think this is one of the best receivers in the second half of drafts here in the 10th round. Probably one of the only receivers left at this point in a draft contest, Chuck, that has a good chance to give you double-digit fantasy points per week on average. I do think that's well within his median range of outcomes.
Yeah, he's still my highest exposed player. Still drafting him a little bit. I guess I could have taken him here, but I guess I just wanted to avoid him for whatever reason.
And if there is anything, and I mean anything that I like about this spot I'm in right here, it's that Jacoby Myers is probably the biggest winner if there's anything wrong with Devontae Adams. And we're in a little bit of an uncertain spot here. I don't think the edge is like tremendous, but I want to make sure that I get Myers at this cost as much as possible over the next few hours, because if we get some earth-shattering Devontae Adams news, he's going to be the player that shoots up the draft board.
It's a pretty sharp read.
I just think he's more likely to have a bigger role. That obviously it'll cascade a little bit. Hunter Renfrow will come up. We'll probably be more interested in drafting him, but Myers probably the most likely to be a wide receiver one, because we've seen him do it. And not only have we seen him do it, we've seen him do it in a Josh McDaniels offense before. So, that's kind of the reasoning and the take there. Again, we don't know what's going on with Adams yet. He could be perfectly fine, but that's just kind of the lean I have right now.
Trying to figure out who my quarterback's going to be. I might just take Daniel Jones here, then grab one of his receivers towards the end. Like, Kenny Pickett's really the only guy I'm set up for a quarterback right now.
And Jones, I mean, this is definitely decent value on him, falling a little bit. So that's not the worst thing in the world. I'm looking at a few of the late quarterbacks that pair well with some of the receivers that I have. I've got a few options here, so a couple of different directions I can go there as well. If Russell Wilson makes it back to me, that would be interesting. I can go with Brock Purdy with Brandon Ayuk. Now that I have Jacoby Myers, Jimmy Garoppolo's on the table, Juju, I've got Mac Jones on the table as well. So I've left myself a pretty big set of options here. And I like having that once I already have 7 receivers on my team like I do now through the first 11 rounds, because I'm probably pretty close to done, if not already done with receivers.
Whereas I'm probably going to add 4 or 5 more receivers to this team to try to make up for lack of having a lot of good receivers.
But this is like the standard way I've been building my teams. I definitely feel like I'm underweight on those running backs that go in the early portion of the draft, Chuck. So,
Pollard early. I haven't necessarily done as much Pollard in round 2 as I would like. I definitely want more of him. Swift, I don't have as much of. Kamara and AJ Dillon, I think I have a little bit of, right in line with the field at least. A chain, I'm probably underweight on. I don't mind the group that you've put together here. I think that's a high upside group at running back that I wouldn't hate having if I had to employ the strategy you did tonight or today.
Yeah, I've been talking about how I'm trying to target running backs a little bit earlier than I had been, and this was not the execution that I think of when I do this. So maybe next time I can get a little bit closer to what I'm trying to do. But this isn't too far off. It's just right here from round 7 to 11 when I take 4 running backs and a quarterback. Missing out on a lot of receivers in this range. So
Kendra Miller going ahead of Jamal Williams here. I think it's admittedly flipping a coin, but we know Kamara is going to miss the first 3 games. I think Jamal Williams is the one I'm slightly more interested in here. I think they have a chance. Here's the effect I think could happen. They lean on Jamal early because he's a veteran, and they know they've got 3 games to get through until Kamara comes back. But what if not only he gets those starts, but he plays so well that Dennis Allen and the Saints staff decide, okay, we're going to just keep Jamal in that role for as long as he remains kind of hot, rides the hot hand, basically. The upside of Jamal Williams, I think, is a little higher than this cost reflects right now, because I do think he's going to get first crack at that job.
yeah, I'm Jamal over Kendre. Kendre's ADP is 147, so AV Meccan didn't even want to wait till the pick 138 for Kendre to come back around. Yeah, this is just, I don't like anyone anymore. Rashi Rice or Van Jefferson for this team?
Man, I don't like either one. Can I say neither? Is that okay?
Yeah. Mingo, Mims.
MVS, Thielen, I don't know. Like one of those guys I think I like more in this range personally.
All right, you talked me into it. We took MVS, and then I'm just going to hope that one of my 2 guys makes it back to me on the next pick, not Jefferson or Rice.
All right, I'm going to go back.
In my headphones. That's the thing. That's what's weird about this with the audio issues. It sounds fine. I think to me, I can hear you pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm not. The issue is on the front end there. As Thielen comes off the board, the 2 players that I just mentioned both get drafted back to back. I feel pretty good when stuff like that happens. I did not really want to take Russell Wilson, but I have Cortland Sutton. He's still here. I think Wilson has the opportunity to have a little bit of a higher median outcome weekly than some of these other guys that are still here in the 12th round or later. So I think that's the direction I'm going to go here. He does not have a flipping bye week with Jalen Hurts. That would be the only thing that would prevent me from doing that here. I'll take Russ at value. And yeah, super bad season last year from him, but that's why we get this value on him here in 2023.
I mean, my thing is he's going to have a better season than last year, right? I'm almost certain of it. And so if he doesn't beat, like, what is he getting drafted as? The QB? Well, that's my cat. What was the rest getting? Like QB 19 or so?
QB 18 right now. That's where he's being drafted.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he finished like 12, 13, maybe even better with he has the weapon, so just has to perform. I saw a note, something about he looks more like Seahawks Russ or whatever they said about it, but implied that he was looking better in practice. Interested in a double stack with Mims?
I think the fringe thing here is a little bit of correlation between Dameon Pierce, my RB1, and a receiving weapon on the Titans, Chiga Okonkwo. Got 2 playoff games, Week 15, Week 17, with the Texans and the Titans. We've seen Chig's price kind of correct a little bit down to this pick 145 range. I have a decent amount of him already, but because I have that correlation reason to select him here, I kind of liked him at that spot. So what I was looking at here on the screen was how strange of a group we have right now with wide receiver and running back. There's like this huge tier of wide receivers that are all being drafted ahead of the next tier of running backs. if you kind of look at how my screen divided them out here by ADP, which I think is kind of interesting right now.
Yeah, no one wants either of the guys that I was going to take a whole round ago, so it's a good sign. Ethos told us the audio sounds better, so that's a good thing. Thanks, Ethos, for letting us know. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you sticking out through the bad audio and still watching the stream. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, thank you for that for sure. Hasn't been one of our best streams, but it has been one of our streams, and we can say that. So,
as long as we finish 1-2, we can look back on this and laugh.
Mingo comes off. You have your choice of Rice and Jefferson a full round later, and we go with KJ. I actually think KJ is a really good pick here. What we learned last night is KJ is still a starter for the Vikings. He did not even attempt to enter the game. I don't think it's going to stay this way, Chuck, but at least right now he is ahead of Jordan Addison for the Vikings.
And even if he's not, like, I drafted him the whole summer thinking he was a wide receiver 3 anyway. And I feel like he can beat this ADP as a wide receiver 3. And if he ends up, I don't see him out-targeting Addison this season, though. I guess it's possible. But if he ends up out-targeting Addison, then this is just going to be one of the best value picks in the whole draft. I think he's probably my 3rd highest owned receiver, maybe 4th right now.
It seems like the only situation where he out-targets Addison is unfortunately like an injury, right? But it can happen. It does happen. Yeah. So you're not wrong to point that out as decent value. We're not rooting for, anything like that to happen to anybody, but it's just the reality of the game. So
it's going to happen.
All right. There are Chig was my first tight end, that's right. So I have I have a decent top 3 here at running back with Dameon Pierce, David Montgomery, Isaiah Pacheco. I don't have tremendous options though. So once again, I think this is going to be another draft at the end here where, especially because I have my 2 quarterbacks locked down already, it's going to be running back lottery ticket time. This is like a range of wide receivers I truly have no interest in. Alec Pierce, Van Jefferson, even Rashee Rice a little bit. I'm kind of skeptical on. I like some of those other Chiefs receivers better. That's just my lean. There may be nothing wrong with Rashee Rice. Do you have some of those spots on the draft board that you absolutely dread by position? I'm sure maybe this is one of them, but it feels everyone. Yeah, you enter these ranges where you're like, ugh. And that's why I think I end up with heavy exposure to a couple of different players. It's because they tend to be where I go in that round because they're the ones I've highlighted as quote unquote the best in that range.
Hodgins or Hyatt?
Probably Hyatt. I think Hyatt has more upside relative to like where he's going to be at the end of the season. Hodgins, they already know what they have there. Hyatt seems to be getting a lot of the praise in camp right now. I'm just basically drafting 2 teams right now, aren't I, Chuck? I'm okay with that.
I considered Sam Laporta at 12 picks past ADP. If I didn't have Kelsey, I would have taken him. But since I have Kelsey, I usually just take another tight end in the last round. I have a few targets that I'm comfortable with. So,
and I guess if there are receivers in this range that you like, Chuck, you should reach a little bit, right? I mean, this is the most uncertain section of the draft board. There's absolutely nothing wrong with reaching a little bit to get what you think is best. I do have a reason to consider DJ Chark here, but he already went. So that's what happens when you're not paying attention, when you're trying to fix the audio on a draft. I am going to lock in Sam Laporta. I do think Laporta is going to be the number 1 tight end for the Lions this year, and it's not super clear who the number 2 option in the passing game is going to be for the Lions with Jameson Williams suspended for 6 games. Again, we know it's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown, but who's the other guy Jared Goff is going to throw to? Sam Laporta very well could be him.
It's Josh Reynolds, right?
You're kind of making the case for Sam Laporta there, right? I think that's kind of my point. Josh Reynolds, we know what Josh Reynolds is, and he's just no disrespect to Reynolds, but he's not anything worth writing home about. I don't think it makes sense for me to go Pierce and Singletary here. So I'm going to skip Singletary and go with Kenneth Gainwell once again in my portfolio. But what do you think about that? Do you do that ever? Do you draft 2 guys from the same team at the top of the depth chart? Do you think that that's bad, or are you okay with doing it?
I think it depends on who. I don't think it's bad, specifically with Pierce and Singletary. the thing is, either of their ceilings, like if you draft both of them, like what is the ceiling outcome if one of them
Right.
hits their ceiling this season? And I don't think it's very, very good, drafting both. I think I've done it with like Swift and Gainwell a couple times maybe. It just, if Swift goes down and Gainwell becomes, Rashad Penny, whatever, if Gainwell becomes the man, then that seems like the ceiling could be there. We saw him flash it a little bit last season. And so, I don't know. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I
I
think
think
that each
Mhm.
of them, I think their value. We've made this case for Singletary several times. We think no matter what, he's going to play a little bit. He's going to score some points each week, and that's why at the end of the draft here, he's one of our favorite running backs. But the upside case for him is something happens to Dameon Pierce, and he plays even more. On the other side, the upside for Dameon Pierce beyond where he is in the draft board is something happens to Devin Singletary, and they're actually forced to use Pierce a little bit more in passing situations, a little bit more than they intended on using him because they don't necessarily trust the depth behind those two guys. I don't see them hitting their ceiling together. Putting them on the same roster in this format feels pretty bad to me. That's why I skipped Singletary, already owning Pierce.
I agree. And, we talk about the range of drafts being kind of a tough range. Like my default pick, if I didn't have 5 running backs already, is either Gainwell or Singletary. So that's the reason why my exposure to them is so high. I just don't love anyone else in this range.
Look, if this beat writer that we're already saying, be skeptical of what he's putting out there, if he's correct that Kenneth Gainwell is the guy to own, or at least early in the season here for the Eagles, hey, I'll take that to the bank all day long. But
Oh, yeah.
macro level thing, focusing on drafting players that are going to have roles on some of the better teams in the league, never a bad idea. So that's why Gainwell is also a pretty good pick here at the end. Obviously, going to justify things that I'm doing because I think they're correct. I wouldn't be doing them if I wasn't.
Yeah, and Gainwell, he just has so much going for him, like Swift's injury history, Rashad Penny's injury history. It's like it does not take a lot for him to see 15 carries in a game.
And that gives me one of these non-traditional double stacks where I've got a running back and a wide receiver with Jalen Hurts. That wasn't necessarily fully on my mind when I made the selection, but just given the context of my team, I think it's pretty good as well.
One thing about Jalen Hurts, I'm so excited about him because it seemed like they were up so big. Like, how many of his fantasy points came in the first half of games versus the second half of games last season? And I feel like it's a pretty big difference. Just they were up so much at halftime, he didn't have to keep going in the second half. So that could be a really explosive offense this year.
If they're playing more competitive games, he could have even better production. And I think, Chuck, honestly, we saw a preview of that in the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts had an incredible football game. I know the Eagles lost. If you go back and look at the numbers that he put up, it was just absolutely incredible. We get that 5-6 times throughout the season. I mean, Hurts is clearly going to be quarterback 1 on the season if something like that happens. So that is definitely something to be aware of as well. It's very sharp of you to call that out. All right. I have already got kind of a mini stack here with Jamar Chase, who was my first pick, and Isaiah Pacheco at running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. There are still a couple of Chief receivers that are here in Justin Ross and Richie James that I don't mind. I've got 4 running backs, so maybe another. Well, I think at least in this first round pick here, or this 16th round pick here, excuse me, I am going to go with Chuba Hubbard as my 5th running back.
Yeah.
I think Miles Sanders is rightly so being drafted as the starter there, but I think Hubbard is probably too cheap because I don't think Sanders has like a tremendous hold on the job. So I'm starting to talk myself into more Hubbard in this range as well.
I love Chuba. He's one of the backups who we've already seen perform at a high level in the NFL. He's had spike weeks last season. I think he did the season before. I might be mistaken on that. But especially with Miles Sanders, who we've already seen perform at a high level in the NFL. He's had spike weeks last season. I think he did the season before. I might be mistaken on that. But especially with Miles Sanders having some kind of injury right now, Chuba Hubbard could be one of the best, one of these late round running back targets that we just are extremely happy with once it happens, I guess.
I'm going to take Michael Wilson from the Arizona Cardinals. And because we've had two different programs, Michael Wilson is actually pushing to be one of the starting wide receivers for the Arizona Cardinals this season. A little bit of a preview of tonight's content for the second slate of preseason week 1 here on Friday night, the late game between the Broncos and the Cardinals. We're expecting Greg Dortch, some of those fringe wide receivers for the Cardinals to play more tonight because Wilson has actually supplanted them. It seems like Marquise Brown and Michael Wilson, Rondale Moore are going to be the 3 starting wide receivers for the Arizona Cardinals this year. You give me a piece of information like that, there's 2 ways I can play it today. I can take Michael Wilson at the end of my best ball draft, and I can play some of those better Cardinal wide receivers with NFL experience in preseason DFS like Greg Dortch, who are probably going to see a ton of snaps tonight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like it. And do you see Colt McCoy join the Underdog team?
I did see that. He's going to be doing a new film-oriented show with Josh Norris, I think it is, here on Underdog's YouTube channel. I'm kind of excited to see what that looks like. He may even be a starting quarterback in the league, at least to start the season, because we don't think Kyler is going to be available on week 1 there. So I'll be very interested to see what that content looks like when it launches.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, I had to do a double take because I'm like, isn't this dude in the NFL right now? Aren't I depending on him for my, Cardinals shares until Kyler comes back? But he's good.
I took Hunter. Go ahead.
Hunter. I took Hunter Henry. I would have taken Conklin if he was there. Apparently, he is Aaron Rodgers' second favorite target after Garrett Wilson in training camp. Hunter Henry is one of Mac Jones' favorite targets. I'd been taking Gesicki mostly, but kind of going to switch to taking more Hunter Henry now. And since I already have Kelsey, it's like this dude is just not going to contribute points. I really just hope he catches a touchdown in Kelsey's bye week because for him to hit it, kind of the same thing. But like for him to contribute points, he has to be in my flex. And for him to be in my flex, he probably has to. Henry's going to do it a couple times, but
These are definitely the champagne problems you have when you are a Travis Kelce owner. I totally understand, though. You're already investing in Kelce, giving you his 15 to 20 points on average, if not more. You're basically looking for just one other tight end, like for a week or something like that. And Hunter Henry, I think, is a perfect target at the end of the draft, especially.
I had that read correct until Twitter talked me into Gesicki. Then I was back on Hunter and off of Gesicki. I just got a notification that Kareem Hunt is visiting with the. Interesting.
Just making the rounds. This will be the 3rd team he's visited with in the last 4 weeks away from the NFL season kicking off. These guys have to make some decisions. I think kind of my overall take on that whole group: Hunt, Zeke, Dalvin Cook.
So there are so many wide receivers that don't get drafted, goes down. Like he did pretty well last season. Corey Davis is per game is really going to look like. Quez Watkins has been shining in camp.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, I like him here at the end. I like Allen Robinson with the Steelers too. Yep. I feel like he's going to be a starter. There's a lot of good dart throws here. He could be the 3rd wide receiver for Miami, although another name, Braxton Berrios, seems like he might be the slot receiver there along. Like that's players that should be selected. And 1st round draft pick, high draft capital there. Just don't with the Jets, but kind of late for them to do that. It seems like he will be there for them. Pretty talented player. Probably another selecting at least a little bit more.
Yeah, and then so I've taken Braxton Berrios in one draft at the beginning. I don't even remember it, but Liam, and he's a big Bills fan, and he's arguing that these guys should definitely be getting drafted ahead of Khalil Shakur. And I don't hate it. Guys off the board who might give us a spike week are just great picks. Marquette
got the hat on. We're rocking the Rams on this stream. Kyren Williams. Really have a ton of him just yet, but Rams is saying things like it's a clear 1-2 between Akers and Williams. We've got Williams playing on some downs. This is a player that the Rams were excited to get out there in week 1 with Stafford and everybody while they were healthy last year. He's a free draft pick right now. Anything Kyren Williams, I think, has a lot more upside than
this game at least. And I was interested in him last year. Should probably be interested in him this year, especially backing up Cam Akers. So.
Well, was not without some technical difficulties, but that's okay. It made things a little more interesting today. Chuck, thank you for joining me once again for a live stream here. We've got a preseason preview of today's action up on the channel already that's pre-recorded. You can definitely check that out as soon as this stream is over. We would really appreciate it. We will have a live NFL Daily Plug on the Occupy Fantasy website by about 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with our top plays for the 6-game slate tonight. Got a little bit of a weird timing issue with the NFL games and how they're kicking off tomorrow. So keep an eye on our Discord for an update on what we have planned for content tomorrow for videos and for a plug. But I think we're not ready to announce a time just yet, Chuck. I think we're going to shoot for a live stream tomorrow to talk about preseason rather than pre-recorded video. So we'll have some of that news as soon as we can make decisions based off of the contests that are available to play. That's, I guess, the business that I have for the show. I don't know if you have anything you want to share before we get out of here.
Just Be More Fights asked if we have any lineups that he can put in, and we're not going to give you lineups, but if you literally just use the plays that Chris talks about in the video, and then if you're a member of the Occupy site, just play the plays in the plug. Like, that's all I did yesterday, and I did very well in preseason. You can miss on 2-3 guys as long as you hit the guys that catch a touchdown. Tonight's a little different because it's 6 games, but number one, just play the